Hey guys, I'm Tom. In this video I will explore the Space Marine super heavy tanks of the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. I will do this while I paint my customized Fellblade in the background. A video is coming on my adventure and challenges with putting it together and how I ended up customizing my personal Fellblade for my Imperial Fists Legion. While I am painting a Fellblade in this video, and before we move on to these dedicated Fellblade chassis vehicles, we should probably look at where it came from, and we do this by starting at the base of the family tree, namely the Bane Blade. Most of us associate the Bane Blade with the use of the Imperial Guard or the Imperial Army. It is a common sight during the Great Crusade, even in the Space Marine Legions, especially with the many specialized variants that have been derived from its hull. Based on ancient STCs dating back to the Dark Age of technology, the venerable Bane Blade is wrapped in layers of ceramite and plasteel. It's more like a moving fortress than an actual tank, armed with a 10-meter long battle cannon that can launch rocket-assisted shells. The firing of this main gun rocks even this massive vehicle when fired. Let's take a look at some of these variants before we move on to the Fellblade. One of the more common sights in the Space Marine Legions from the Bane Blade chassis is the Stormblade. Produced on Forgeworld Lucius, its main armament is a plasma blast gun, most often found on Warhound class Titans. Normally operated by the Imperial Army, most legions maintain a stock of Stormblades in their super heavy tank formations. The Legionnaires are more resilient to the heat and radiation that the massive reactor array produces, and are thus better suited than the mortals of the Imperial Army, though they are known to operate them even within the legions. Legions such as the Iron Warriors and Iron Hands are known to utilize the Legion Stormblades in armored vanguards, flanked by Predators and Sicarans. While the Stormblade itself is produced on Forgeworld Lucius, the majority of its plasma blast guns are produced on Forgeworld Risa, as Risa is the undisputed masters of this particular strand of machine lore. Like all plasma weapons, the plasma blast gun fires a plasma bolt as bright as the sun, able to reduce the strongest armor to molten slag, or even defeat Titan-grade void shields with relative ease. The Stormblade is also known to have been used as a command tank, bolstering the morale and coordination of friendly troops. Then we have the Banehammer, which is another Baneblade chassis variant. It trades off a number of weapons and ammo storage spaces to fit the mighty Tremor Cannon. It fires massive time-fused shells that penetrate the ground before detonating. This allows it to send out massive shockwaves in a large radius, powerful enough to knock over the most battle-hardened warriors. Then we have the Stormlord, another variant with Titan-grade weapons, armed with a front hull-mounted Vulcan Mega Bolter. Its job is to pulverize enemy heavy infantry, light armored vehicles, and anything else unfortunate enough to be standing in the way of the storm of high-caliber explosive bolts spewing out of its rotary death hoses. Just imagine two A-10s going brrrr in your direction. However, this is only half of its purpose. This clearing of the way is to allow the 20 legionaries that are embarked in the back to have a clear line of advance to their objective. Then we have the Shadow Sword, armed with a volcano cannon, a weapon named after the way it turns rock and stone into spraying magma wherever it hits. It is an apocalyptically powerful laser weapon, designed to bring down the most colossal enemy war engines or level the most reinforced fortifications. The volcano cannon can be found on nearly all classes of Titans, from the Warhound to the Warlord. The volcano cannon is, however, quite maintenance intensive and takes up a large part of the tank's hull, making it less flexible than many other variants. Because of how destructive and how much of a danger this weapon poses towards the enemy's most powerful and prized war engines, it can mark out the Shadow Sword as a priority target for the enemy. Because of this, only the most experienced and astute legionaries and commanders that can perform under intense pressure are allowed to crew these mighty war engines. On to the last of the Space Marine operated Baneblade chassis, the Storm Sword. This variant's main armament is the Hellhammer cannon, very similar in size, performance, and ability to the Typhon's Dreadhammer siege cannon, which in turn is a massively upscaled Demolisher cannon, most commonly found on Vindicator tanks. While the range of this weapon is short, it is incredibly destructive, lobbing a huge caliber shell that detonate into white-hot, meter-long shards of metal upon impact and in a massive radius. Even if someone is fortunate enough to avoid these supersonic shards, there is still a devastating wave of overpressure to contend with. A wave of overpressure of such force that it can powder bones and rupture the hulls of even heavy tanks. For the sake of completeness, I will mention the other Baneblade chassis design that was around at this time. It was not operated by the Space Marine Legions, that is why I'm not detailing it here, but it is the Stormhammer, which is commonly operated by the Solar Auxilia. Now we get to the more derived Fellblade and its variants. The Fellblade is based on the same STC as the Baneblade and Deathhammer super heavy tanks used by the Imperial Crusade army. A note on the Deathhammer tank: as of this time there are no archive information to be found on this vehicle, but it does appear to be in common use with the Imperial army. The Fellblade is a more advanced variant of the Baneblade. It saw widespread service in the Astartes legions in the last decades before the heresy. Many of the advances that sets it apart from its Baneblade heritage comes from the technologies restored to humanity by the conquests of the Great Crusade. These advancements over the Baneblade consist of a Mechanicum atomantic arc reactor, reinforced metaplast alloy chassis, and its main armament, the accelerator cannon. The accelerator cannon was developed on Forgewell Tigris, also known from the pattern of bolters that are commonly associated with the Mark IV armor design. The accelerator cannon is, in a way, a predecessor to the Heracles pattern accelerator autocannons found on the later Sakharan battle tanks that were introduced at the tail end of the Great Crusade and at the beginning of the heresy. The Fellblade's accelerator cannon is cogitator operated and able to switch between density core armor-piercing shells for dealing with enemy armor or fortifications, or high explosive fragmentation rounds against troop concentrations. More heavily armed than the Baneblade variants, the Fellblade and its siblings have exchanged a heavy bolter sponsons for las cannon arrays or laser destroyers. The Fellblade is known to have been operated by both mortals or Astartes in the legions, at least in the first edition of the heresy rule set anyway. Likewise, it is also known to be used as a command tank to bolster the morale and coordination of nearby troops. First of the Fellblade siblings, the Glaive, or sometimes known as the Fellglaive. It is a super heavy special weapons tank. The Glaive may look a lot like a Fellblade, but it is equipped with the powerful Volkite carronade, which is thought to have been designed on Mars during the Age of Strife. The Emperor had demanded that a Legion tank be created to utilize this fearsome and arcane weapon, much to the protest and dismay of the Martian Forge Lords. But there was a great need in the Legions to combat larger Xenos monstrosities and hordes alike, especially as the crusading fleets came closer and closer to the galactic core. The Glaive is documented to have been effective against various Xenos races that fielded larger bioforms. The Glaive is exceptionally costly to produce because of its weapon system, but considered well worth it for its ability to combat even the largest monstrosities the Imperial expeditions encounter. Unlike the Fellblade, the Glaive is exclusively crewed by Astartes. With such delicate and prized weaponry, it is probably best left in the hands of warriors with a steady heart and a tactical mind. Last of the Fellblade chassis is the Falchion, classified as a super heavy tank destroyer. The Falchion has the durability and advancements of the Fellblade and the weaponry of the Shadow Sword. Well, it has twice the firepower of the Shadow Sword, twin volcano cannons, making it the most powerful vehicle-mounted anti-tank weapon in the Imperium's arsenal. Each Falchion is so costly in resources to produce that it is heavily limited in use in the Space Marine Legions, with most legions only maintaining a handful of them, reserved for use against only the largest enemies. The Falchion was not originally designed to combat Titans, as it would frequently do during the heresy. It was, like the Glaive, designed to take down the truly massive and sometimes gargantuan enemies the Crusade forces encountered as they conquered the galaxy in the name of humanity and the Emperor. A side note on this, with the Falchion being such a technological marvel, the Mechanicum has also been known to operate Falchions, but information on the usage in Mechanicum formations are limited. During my research, mainly from the black books of first edition Horus Heresy, I came across a number of confirmed uses of these super heavies during the Horus Heresy and even from the Great Crusade. I won't mention all of the Great Crusade era ones, as there are quite a few, with some of them being very hard to pronounce even. I will do a quick summary of some of the major battles of the Heresy and some of the confirmed uses. Let's start with the beginning of the Heresy, Istvan III. There are confirmed uses of the Fellblade by the Death Guard. On Istvan V, we find confirmed uses of the Fellblade from both the Death Guard and Iron Hands, as well as Glaives by the Salamanders. On Paramar, there are confirmed uses of both Fellblades and Glaives by the Alpha Legion, as well as Falchions by the Iron Warriors. On Testra Prime, we again find uses of the Fellblade by the Alpha Legion. On Calth, both Fellblade, Baneblade, and Shadow Swords are confirmed used by the Ultramarines, and Fellblades and Falchions by the Wordbearers. Hardly a surprise given the Grand Muster of almost the entirety of the two largest legions. In general, both the Death Guard and Iron Hands are confirmed to make heavy use of the Fellblade in particular, and the Iron Warriors of any kind of super heavy, really. Hardly a surprise for anyone. Right. There was one instance during the Great Crusade I thought I would mention, just because I thought it was interesting. During the compliance of Baroda, home of Knight House Maccabeus, a force of Imperial Fist, Fellblades, and Terminators took on the undersupplied Knights of House Maccabeus in what is described as a horribly one-sided battle. For those of you wondering, the Knight House would side with the War Master during the Heresy. As a last battle record of Super Heavies, we have a confirmed commander, and in version 1.0 of the Heresy rules, he was even playable. Spearhead Centurion Casterman Orth of the Iron Hands was a notable Fellblade commander who survived his Fellblade's destruction during the Dropsite Massacre on Istvan V. He then made his way to a Sakaran battle tank where he took charge of that and then led an armored push of fast tanks into the enemy ranks. Orth's fate is unknown. It is rumored that he survived Istvan, but that he is badly disfigured and that he has abandoned his name and rank in shame. He's rumored to be hunting down traitors with a burning vengeance. For the sake of completeness, I should also mention that I am aware of both the Cerberus, the Typhon, and the Mastodon tanks. Some of these are not classified as super heavies, and the Mastodon is in a league of its own, so therefore I did not tackle them in this video. Before I fully round off the lore section of this video, I want to do an honorable mention in the Fellblade's design lineage in the Kratos Heavy Assault Tank. In product terms, it is a new vehicle with quite minimal lore, but in universe, it is one of, if not the first, Astartes tank. Almost all Space Marine tanks can trace some of its lineage back to this vehicle. Even if it isn't written in words, the design language is there to be a common ancestor to most Space Marine tanks. The YouTube channel Leaky Cheese did a fantastic video of turning me from a disliker of the Kratos into a massive fan of it. I might one day do a sort of similar video to it, but I definitely do not want to step on his toes. All credit goes to him for the analysis that he did on the design aesthetic. You'll probably spotted my Kratos being painted alongside my Fellblade in the background. I do have video materials on it, and I might one day attempt to do a Kratos lore/hobby video. We will see. I must say that doing the research for this video has also converted me from being a bit of a snob towards the Baneblade chassis in Heresy usage. Lore-wise, they appear to be not quite as uncommon as I once thought they were. Who knew? I learned something too. I kinda want to make a Stormlord for my World Eaters army. It just seems fitting for them. Grinding forward under the hail of Mega Bolter shells, with 20 blood-crazed super soldiers jumping out of the back to finish whatever is left standing. I mean, if that isn't thematic for World Eaters, I don't know what is. I guess the main thing holding me back from executing that plan is that it is massively overcosted in-game. The Fellblade in this video I brought to an event shortly after it was done being painted, and in the 5 games that I played, I'm fairly certain that it never made its points back, not even once. In terms of the real world, it does have the advantage of being only half the amount of money that a Fellblade is, and the fact that it is made of plastic makes it much less of a hassle to put together and customized. It can even be magnetized to be used as multiple variants too, which does add a bit of flexibility. I might pull the trigger on it later on. It was reduced in points once already. Maybe it will be further reduced in the future. Time will tell. It would be one hell of a fun project to convert up though. Anyway, let's round off this video. I hope you enjoyed listening to the lore about these super heavy tanks while I painted one of my own in the background. It took a lot of time. It is sped up significantly. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, I greatly appreciate it. I hope to see you in another video whenever I get around to finishing one. Take care, guys. Cheers.